I mean, when I was growing up, I really wanted to be a cowboy, but living in the Midlands, that wasn't really an option. I left school when I was 16, so I'd done a lot of work in the building industry before I came to education. I don't think when I was young I realised there was going to be the opportunity actually to be an artist. It wasn't really a career path that I was aware of. It was an art teacher at the technical college just said, look, you know, you really should think about art and design as a career. And then I did my foundation and then through to a BA. Then back to industry. I then went and studied at the Royal College and did my masters, and you know, I've been practicing since really. So actually, after my MA, I was not really working in stone anymore. I was working in a much broader range of materials, and I think that was a really good thing for me. I'm still using sculptural thinking within the drawing process because what I'm doing is I'm now using the drawing as my material. So, as maybe I was using stone, now drawing is a physical material for me. So I reinterpret it, I reconstruct it. Then I bring it together in these collages, which I then ink up. And at the moment I'm using a range of different inks because a lot of my work's about this nature of authorship and the nature of chance and where does the author let go and where does the work take a particular sort of sentient role within the process, and should it and does it. So I then reverse these drawings, and you can see these are actually the byproduct. These are the waste actually, but this is where I sort of keep drawing references from, and they're like it's like a monoprint process. The start is looking. I mean, you know, I spend most of my sort of like waking hours just staring at the stuff around me, and that normally is translated direct into sketchbooks. So the sketchbook is a place where, I mean, I quite often describe it as like a virtual studio, you know, and the wonderful thing about drawing is that drawing, it has to understand the laws of physics and nature and reality, but you can also completely sort of confound them as well. The recent exhibition I had in China was entitled Trace Engines, and it's this idea of the traces of something, but also the notion of an engine as a device that makes things move forward, not necessarily just four wheels or wings or jet engines, but that sense of an engine as an engine of change, a machine to change something. We all draw our understanding of the world from our background, our family, what we've seen. So the work plays on that sort of generic knowledge that we all have, that we think things look a bit like, you know, or it reminds me of. And so I do play on that quite a lot in the way I draw. Communication probably is the thing that makes my heart sing. I'm a communicator and I like to talk to people, I like speaking to people, I like watching what they're doing. I'm incredibly passionate about education. I've been working in education for 20 years and it's not, I think a lot of people think that, well, fine artists especially, when you graduate and you realise there isn't a job in The Guardian that says fine artist wanted, you suddenly go, right, what am I going to do? So I've worked in the fashion industry, I've worked in the stonemason industry, and I've worked in education. But education is not something that's just a day job. It's basically what I do. It's about communication again, and it's a wonderful environment to work in. Cowboy movies were big, space movies. I was a big movie fan. I think in terms of, I suppose what I really enjoyed about science fiction, especially 50s science fiction films, was the fact that it was all about the fear of the unknown, or trying to describe something you don't know. And a lot of my drawings, you know, you might see here, for instance, you might say, oh, that looks a little bit like a jug, it looks a little bit like a kettle, but it's a little bit like. What I'm doing is I'm giving you a language that makes you feel a bit comfortable, but when you get closer, you sort of say, hang on, it's not what I expected. And I think sort of 50 sci-fi sort of was a really big influence for me. Other influences obviously were art and design. I mean, I look at everything. I mean, there's nothing, a lot of people quite often say, you know, who's your favourite artist or who's your favourite practitioner? And it's a bit like music, you know, I don't actually have many albums by artists, but I have a lot of compilation albums. I think I've always sort of played around with, I'm not sure what the final product is. In terms of achieving my goals, I hope I haven't, because I'm a great believer in if you achieve something, you probably go and do something else. And I'm quite happy continuing my practice. In terms of these, they are artifice. So I like the idea that you think, a lot of people do look at them and think they're technical drawings. They're not, they're completely made up. But it's like anything, if you make something up, it has to be based, you're drawing from somewhere. It's about language.